Yo, welcome to the first ever episode of the Puck Buddies podcast. I'm Kurt Ridgewell. Alongside me, my puck buddy, Zach McGinnis.
Heyo, what's going on?
We're here to talk hockey, all things hockey, and we're here for our first round recap and analysis.
Yeah, we're going to talk about everything that went down in the first round, East-West, big series, what our main talking points were. Plan on doing one of these for each round throughout the playoffs. And after that, we'll see what happens, I guess.
We'll see what happens, yeah.
So, you wanted to address the elephant in the room first.
Yeah, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. The Tampa Bay Lightning.
Ouch.
What the heck happened there?
That was just, that shocked the hockey world. I don't even want to say that there was, I can't come up with, specific statistics on it, but how many brackets do you think were destroyed?
Well, I hurt mine. I had them in the finals.
A lot of people had them in the finals. A lot of people had them winning the cup. It was just mayhem. I don't even really know, how does that happen? And what a way for Columbus to win their first series ever.
Yeah. They come in, still haven't won a series. They went all in at the deadline.
Yeah.
They stocked it up. They knew they were losing Panarin and Bobrovsky at the end of the season. So they said, for our fans, we're going to go all in.
Yeah.
So they loaded up. They went in, and they jumped all over this Tampa team.
Of course, yeah. Part of, credit to the Blue Jackets is a lot of people seem to be thinking, in the way that they're talking is, here's Tampa. They should have won. Tampa choked. It's Tampa's fault. And there's a lot of truth to that. They should have won this series.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Columbus is, credit to them for playing, right? But, the big talking point that you mentioned, actually, was that Columbus had been playing playoff hockey for how long now? Yeah,
they had to fight their way to get in the playoffs, so they were playing playoff hockey just to get in.
And that worked out for them because they were able to just take that and roll right in. For how many periods did Tampa lead that entire series? The first two, the first three, and then they choked in the first game, and then it was downhill from there.
Well, I think a big key point into Columbus winning that series was right out the gate. So Tampa goes up 3-0 in the first period.
Yeah.
They made the coaching decision to keep Bobrovsky in. Right after the 3 goals, they could easily just pull Bobrovsky, and that could have been it. They might not have won anything. Yeah. But they chose to stuck with Bobrovsky, and he proved, he's not a playoff bust, which a lot of people say he was going to be.
He's not going to be. Whatever team gets him, if he stays in Columbus, I'll be very surprised, but whatever team gets him is getting a serious A1 goalie. As a Flyers fan, I've always been a little bit salty that they didn't stick with him.
Yeah.
And obviously after the goaltending season the Flyers had this season, it's just more salt in the wound, of course, but my player to watch for Columbus was Matt Duchene. I think he had a huge impact throughout the series. I think he was a great ad, and then I think he's also a player they're probably going to be able to re-sign.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to keep him. They're going to have to sign some people. They're losing pretty much everybody. Yeah. They're going to have a lot of salary left. They do have a lot of young stars coming up. So
yeah, lots of credit to them. Bjorkstrand had a really good series as well. I think he was a good part. The one thing that really hurt for Tampa was the Kucherov suspension. And then also the Hedman injury that happened at the same time.
Yeah.
So, not only are you down and out almost of the series, but now you're losing your not arguably, this season, he was your best player. Mm-hmm. And then your top defenseman, a Norris-nominated defenseman. And the same night, on a game when you come back, that was the game that they didn't have them was the one that they went down 0-3. That's the end.
It does hurt. I understand it hurts to lose those guys, but you have to see this team was deep enough that they still should have won the series.
Stevie Y built a very good hockey team, and it's going to be really sad for them to see him go. Red Wings, props for them to get him back, but
yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
It was full out failure.
Yeah.
Goalie Bob did his thing. He kept them in every single game, and easy enough. You can't really say much except for good work on the Jackets.
It's still going to take a long time to sink in, though. That they're not in, especially with the NHL awards coming up, and Kucherov's nominated for an award, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then you've got Vasilevsky, who's in for the Vezina. You have Hedman, who's in for the Norris. You have Cooper, who's in for the coaching award.
Yep.
These are, I don't know.
So these guys are, if they win these awards, they're going to go up there and not feel satisfied still.
Yeah, they should. It's just going to kind of be a little bit bittersweet, I think, for those guys. Maybe they should think about moving to NHL awards. Maybe they should put if they're not going to count the playoffs.
Yeah,
they should put them before the playoffs. Other than that, I guess we got to just kind of move on, and so does the rest of the hockey world, I guess. It wasn't Tampa Bay's year, I guess.
Let's move on to another Game 7 disappointing final loss or round one loss that the Leafs had to the Bruins.
Absolutely.
Again.
Yeah, again. That one's never going to be an easy pill to swallow for Leafs fans, and obviously where we're from, Toronto sports media is never going to let us hear the end of it.
That's it. We're going to hear it every day until the next season starts.
Yeah, the monumental changes that need to be taken to the lineup, obviously.
Oh yeah,
that need to happen. No, I don't know. For me, it's like the Leafs just can't seem to figure out playoff hockey. They're putting the pieces in. Now they have the pieces.
yeah,
But
they have superstar players on this roster.
Yes.
The issue I see with this team is built to score goals.
Yeah.
They're not built to win games. Okay, they're an amazing skill team,
That's a good
but
point.
they're missing a lot of pieces that you would see on every other hockey team. Size, power, a lot of these things. And their defense core is very thin as well.
Yeah, they're missing like I kind of thought about it. I'm like, and then obviously that we're gonna get to this because this is probably the most contested thing between us for this series is that they're missing like a Matt Martin style player. You know, somebody like who can come in and bang bodies, create space, and generate a little bit of momentum outside of those top two lines.
Yeah. Well, speaking of banging bodies, let's talk about Nazem Kadri.
Okay. Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying is like
So
other than him, who does that?
Yeah, nobody. They don't. They're just a fast team, and their key to winning the series was to be able to be faster and get around these Boston guys before they hit them.
Boston's got quick defense now. They got Torrey Krug and Charlie McAvoy is very impressive, I think, throughout the series. Carlo as well, another good defenseman who's kind of had a really good come up this season. They weren't really able to burn them, but for the Kadri suspension, we definitely differ in our opinions on this one.
Yeah, we both are in agreement that this is a suspension. I mean,
yeah, it was a suspendable thing. Repeat offender.
So, there was a hit that took place when DeBrusk hit Marlowe along the boards, right where the glass ends on the bench.
Yeah,
and he was fine. Marlowe literally just got up and kept playing.
Yeah,
but Kadri was like, no.
He took exception.
So he skates over and cross-checks him in the face. So there's a big issue there.
2 minutes for you can't do that.
Yep.
More than 2 minutes.
Yeah. So he had a hearing, and he has been suspended for incidences like this before.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like his 5th suspension or
Probably something like that.
I initially thought he's going to get a 5-game suspension here.
5, okay.
And that's really what I expected to happen after this hearing, considering he's a repeat offender.
Yeah.
But they went a different route. They gave him a suspension, an unindefinite suspension.
An unidentified amount of games.
Yeah, so it was just a remainder of the first round suspension without giving a set amount of games. So at the point of this suspension, it could have been 3 or 5.
Yes.
Either way, which I personally don't agree with. I think it should have been a set 5. That way, even if the Leafs get out of the first round quickly in 3 games, he still would have had to miss the next 2 games of the second round.
See, that's something that I didn't really consider, of course. I mean,
because if they win in 3 and he can play again, you're saying, okay, that suspension was only worth, that hit was only worth 3 games.
Okay, that's a fair opinion. I didn't really kind of realize that that's where you were headed with that when we disagreed, because I'm somebody who I like what they did with that. I like that there's no like definite end to the suspension. What the NHL is saying is that you've done this so many times, and unfortunately, in a previous case to this exact same team, this is one of those situations where it's like they're just saying, okay, you Nazem Kadri now do not get a chance to help your team overcome your opposition here.
Yeah. Yeah, they basically said, because of what you've done to this Bruins player, you are not allowed to play against the Bruins.
Yes, and and I like that, because it's like now he has to sit with the fact that, in a Game 7 situation where they could have been banging some bodies or creating space, they could have not had to mess with their line combinations. I mean, not that Babcock wasn't going to do that anyway, but
yeah,
I think it's a good suspension. But your point is actually really good, and I like that you mentioned that it should have probably had a length on it, because if Toronto, in the unlikely scenario, would have somehow managed to just thump the Bruins and get out of it, then they would, in this situation, be playing the Columbus Blue Jackets minus Nazem Kadri for the next couple games. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that is not how the cookie crumbled this time around.
No. Another thing I want to add about that Game 2 there was how much the Bruins really shut down the Leafs. Yeah. In the first game, the Leafs, their speed worked. They got around. They were shooting the puck and scoring goals.
Yeah.
I feel the second game, the Bruins just shut them down. They couldn't even move the puck. Their passes sucked. The Bruins were there to stop.
Yeah, there was
everything.
I noticed there's just no zone entry, no basic breakouts going on. It
No,
was
no,
just
that was full, like outright Bruins that second game.
So do you think Mike Babcock got outcoached? Think Bruce Cassidy had any hand in this? Like, I mean, obviously, to some degree, there's no debate that he did, but how much do you think it was like an out-coaching thing? Because obviously Toronto sports media is never going to let us forget about how Babcock, quote-unquote, might be failing.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play his best player the right amount of minutes, He was sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
You need to get him out there. I don't know what, he was thinking. But, if Toronto comes and prevails in Game 7, then they're praising.
Then all of a sudden he's a genius. Yeah. Well, that's the thing with Toronto sports media. There's so much that can be said about every game. Every situation gets twisted one way or another. I don't personally think he got out-coached as much as it was just he made a couple of judgment decisions that, as you said, they could have turned out great or they could have turned out bad. I mean, he made some gambles with how the players that he played, especially in that last game, that third period of Game 7. There's probably not that's just a bad call in my opinion. There's not really an excuse to play Connor Brown for more minutes than Austin Matthews. It's just not.
Yeah, no.
You're never going to win that. If you would have played Matthews for more time and you would have still lost, people wouldn't be commenting about it right now. So instead, they'd be talking about how Matthews needed to score more.
Well, at the end of the day, you do need to put the puck in the back of the net.
Yep.
And the Bruins were scoring, but not without an effort because Anderson was playing stellar hockey.
Oh, absolutely. I have that note here as well, is that, at the end of the day, Freddie Anderson gave his team a chance to win. And that's all you can really do as a goalie. Like, as a goalie in the National Hockey League, all you can do is, at the end of the day, give your team a fighting chance to win. And I think in every game he really did that. I don't think he let in too many fluff goals. I don't think he was shaky or nervous. I mean, he had a few rough patches throughout the season, but I don't know if there's a goal in the NHL that didn't this season. So it's
I think he played some of the best hockey of any of the goalies in the league this year.
He could have, and maybe playoffs too. I mean, it's hard to tell right now, but either way, Toronto's going to be making an early exit once again. Will they be able to? Now the question is for next season, how many bodies are they going to be able to keep in this lineup? And we'll probably end up talking more about that over the summer with what they're going to be able to do with the cap space that they have. A couple of Canadian teams are going to be on the crunch, and we'll kind of mention that a little bit later too. But on to the next series, we've got the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, this is a barn burner.
Yep, we got another Game 7 here.
Yep, of course.
This was the last series that concluded in the first round. Yeah, right away you think the goalies in the series played good. Yeah. So, props to them. The Capitals had no hangover. A lot of people were expecting, that Stanley Cup hangover.
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure the first month or so of the season, Ovechkin was hungover because he drank a whole lot during that offseason.
Oh my God, what a celly from that guy!
Oh yeah,
what a celly.
He went full send this offseason.
Absolutely. But can you blame him? I mean, how many years has he been waiting for this? Now he finally gets the moment. Now nobody's going to discount him. All season long, you hear all the analysts calling him still one of the. I mean, they probably would have whether he won the cup or not. One of the greatest hockey players of all time. One of the greatest scorers.
Oh yeah, I truly think he's the greatest scorer ever.
He probably pure goal scorer, probably. And I mean, how many years now have we seen him just love scoring goals? I mean, he just absolutely
from the same exact spot.
Oh God, Ovechkin Island, the
Ovechkin
office.
Island, his office.
Yeah, it's crazy how long he's been playing that teams just haven't seemed to figure out how to.
Please tell me how you still somehow leave this guy open in the one spot that he don't miss from.
Yeah, I mean this is hockey. It's not like basketball where you can obviously you can't just double team a guy or play zone. You just can't play zone defense against them. Even on the power play, you should just play 3 guys against the other 4 guys on the ice and have one guy just literally stand in front of Ovechkin and maybe Sean Avery the heck out of him, put his stick in front of his face, do anything to get him off of his game. But nobody even seems to try to do that anymore. So
there was one specific moment in this series,
yeah,
where he was wide open, all alone in his spot, while all the Carolina players were on the other side of the ice. And if the puck gets to him,
it's over. It's a goal.
It's a goal.
It's a goal. Either way, didn't get enough of those. And in my opinion, Alex Ovechkin throughout this series, I think I don't know if it was the rough time that they were having with Carolina that they maybe weren't expecting to be having with them, but he looked kind of tilted. He just looked kind of on edge, frustrated, right out the gate. And obviously the Svechnikov knockout kind of shows that. Oh yeah. He's literally almost twice this kid's age and he just drops him like that and still paying the price for it.
That was a hell of a fight, yeah. It's unfortunate, he's out because Carolina wins this series in 7 and moves on, and now they're without him.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. But
He'll be back soon, hopefully.
What a great shot! What a great punch!
I mean, it was. I guess so, but like, was Svechnikov really asking for that? I don't know. It's hard to say. And then he was just really frustrated in general. He had that one slashing penalty where he got kicked out. I mean, it was a bit of an after the fact play. That's not really a big story as far as the outcome of the series goes, but that was just kind of like the culminating moment where you could really see the frustration out of Alex Ovechkin. And I mean, now he's going to be playing some international hockey as he gets called up to the Russian team and Carolina. And props to them. I mean, the two big players for them that, I mean, obviously I wouldn't have really expected. I might have expected like Sebastian Aho to have a big series because he's been good. Jordan Staal with his experience, and I mean, he is still going to have a good playoff for sure. Don't count him out, but Mrazek played really well, as you mentioned. I think Jacob Slavin played really well, the defenseman. He jumped into a lot of plays, and he created a lot of offense where I think like they kind of lack that on their defensive end. They have Dougie Hamilton, and he's good once the puck's in the zone, but as far as jumping into the play and like joining the action and creating chances like that, I think Slavin did an amazing job of that, and obviously Warren Foegele.
Warren Foegele, he had a series.
I mean, before this series started, I wouldn't even blame people for not knowing who Warren Foegele was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I wouldn't blame them. He's not exactly a household name, but this is kind of what the magic of the NHL playoffs can do, and then especially when you get a long series against the defending champions. I mean, this is, whether we like it or not, it's a breakout campaign for a lot of these players on Carolina.
Oh,
now
sure.
They're moving into the second round. I mean, as at the time of recording this, they're doing pretty well in the series.
Yep.
I mean, that's their new series, rather. I mean, and we'll get to that now as we jump into. I mean, do you have anything else you want to add about the Caps series?
I think we covered it all there. It was just
it was a hard fought series. I mean, it could have gone either way in most games, and I think that's kind of the playoff hockey that Gary Bettman was looking for when he shifted to this new format. So
yeah, for sure, they wanted people to be competing right.
Yeah, no more free rounds.
No more free rounds. Off to the next series.
Yep.
We have the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yes.
A 4-0 sweep of the Pens. The Islanders move on to the second round.
Now, not that nobody had the Islanders moving on to the second round, but I don't think anybody picked them to sweep the Pens.
Nope, I don't think so. I mean, the Pittsburgh, they've been in the playoffs. They've won cups with this team.
Yeah.
They are the dynasty. So, in your opinion, do you think the dynasty is over?
I mean,
Penguins?
Malkin had a quote the other day where he said to the media, he said, "We're just not champions anymore."
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not exactly a fan of Evgeny Malkin, but I'm going to say he hit the nail on the head with that one. Any team that has Crosby and Malkin on it, even though they're kind of aging, it should be a competitive team. The Pens are never going to be an easy draw in the playoffs. Matt Murray
Except
still
for this year, of course, because they got swept.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean,
no one saw it coming.
They
though.
still have a stellar team. I mean, Jake Gensel is like everything Chris Kunitz was, and with actual talent. I'm sorry. I really have to. I get some strong opinions. I just think throughout the season, Gensel's proved that he can play on his own without Crosby, but obviously playing with Crosby was where they were having the most bread and butter. Those two were absent at the start of this series.
Yeah.
They didn't get on the score sheet until game 4, and that's too little too late. Like you can't do that if you're your top two forwards for your team.
Yeah.
It can't happen. It's just unfortunate. I mean, obviously again, in these sweep kind of series where it's like Tampa Bay choked versus Columbus. Well, New York Islanders, they came out the gate firing Barry Trotz in contention for that coaching award. I think he's going to win it.
Well, he brought a team that nobody expected to really be anything. They lost their superstar player in John Tavares over the offseason. So people were like, well, they're not going to be as good now without him. And sure as shit, they're good.
They had the best goalie tandem all year, and again, and it's another one of those breakout stories where it's like at the start of the season you look at their goaltending. Okay, Robin Leonard and Thomas Greiss, two goalies who have been like rotating in and out of lineups as the starting goalie for their entire careers, and then all of a sudden,
well, they rolled the dice here on Leonard, basically, giving him the one job. Although they were, a 1A and 1B throughout the whole season.
Yeah, of course.
Leonard had an amazing campaign.
He's still having an amazing campaign. I mean, I think he's doing all right. Obviously, not looking so good now, but Leonard he's in contention for the Vezina. In my opinion, I think he should get it. I think it would be a good ending to what had been a nightmare of a couple years for him with his like mental health issues and all of that.
It's good to see him.
It's good to see him back. Thanking the crowd and stuff. He's obviously really loved by the Islanders fans there, and he's been a big piece of that team. I mean, the other big point that I had for the Islanders was Jordan Eberle.
That entire line seemed unstoppable. They're just getting pucks in the net.
Yeah, they're just finding. I mean, Jordan Eberle with his breakout playoff campaign, is what I'll call it, because he had 13 playoff games with the Oilers, no goals. And everybody was like, well, maybe Eberle's not as good. Maybe he's not Captain Clutch anymore. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that the Oilers were the problem, because in this first round of this series, like, he was literally Captain Clutch. 4 goals in 4 games. 2 of those goals came within 2 minutes of the Pens scoring a goal to kill their momentum.
Yeah.
And those are big dagger goals to have at big
that's
times
clutch.
in
Get
games.
your game,
Yeah.
Get your team right back in it.
Yeah, absolutely. It just takes the momentum right out of the other team's court.
Yeah.
I mean, Eberle's always been a player of mine that I've kind of just enjoyed watching, and it was obviously kind of a little bit sad that he didn't work out with Edmonton the way that they wanted. I mean, now they've physically turned him into nothing, and
Yeah.
well, we can have an entire episode on the failures of the Edmonton Oilers.
Sorry
another
to any Oilers fans out there.
Apologies. I mean, listen. We're hurting with you, because I think everybody in Canada wants to see the Oilers succeed.
I think anybody in Canada wants to see any Canadian team do anything.
Yeah,
They all have
exactly.
a soft spot for a Canadian team.
We all want to see the Oilers do well, but unfortunately, you're stuck with the worst general manager in the history of the game for how many years, and it's just unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation. Unfortunate for them, fortunate for Eberle. Glad he found a new home that's working out for him, and hopefully he can pick things up here in the second round and continue on in the playoffs. Now, moving over to the other conference, the Western Conference.
So we got the number 1 seeded Preds against.
Were they number 1 in the Central?
They were number 1 in the Central.
Okay, yeah, I forgot.
Against the Dallas Stars.
Yes.
A wild card team takes down a number 1 seed.
Yes.
Again, with a 4-2 series win. What do you think the problem here was with the Predators? Why couldn't things click?
They just weren't firing on all cylinders consistently enough. I mean, they have some very star-studded talent. I think that Granlund acquisition just made them even better. It gave them somewhat of what they lost with James Neal a couple of years ago. I mean, I'm not a huge James Neal fan, but they needed a little bit of secondary scoring to complement their primary scoring on their team, and they didn't get the job done this time around. Ben Bishop played really well. I mean, here's the thing about Ben Bishop, and he did look a little bit shaky at times. If you notice the goals that he'd been letting in and has been letting in the playoffs so far, some of them are a little soft. Like, they're goals he wants back. And that's the thing, is Ben Bishop's an emotional goalie. You can see it in his face when he lets in a goal that he doesn't like. Like, he gets really frustrated with himself, so he's a confidence goalie, and when he's on his game, he is one of the best goalies in the NHL. There's a reason he's nominated for the Vezina this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just a confidence thing. So for Dallas to be able to play well in front of him, for them to be able to shut down a team like Nashville, that's going to be huge going into the second round.
Yeah, for sure. And they had a point during the year where their general manager came out and
Yes.
and basically said that their star players need to step up, saying that they weren't doing well and not doing enough.
That's a light way of saying it.
Yeah,
but yeah,
he called them shit.
Yeah, I believe the quote was actually he did say that they were horse shit.
Yeah.
I think it was the CEO of the team, Jim something. I forget his name already because
Okay.
it made me really
My
upset.
mistake.
It made me upset to hear it because that's there's better ways to say that, but that's been resolved behind closed doors. And he did ultimately apologize for using those words. I mean, everybody was frustrated. Probably no two guys were more frustrated with it than Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, and they've expressed that,
Yeah.
and it was good to see them step up.
They turned it around big time.
The whole season they were basically sitting in this wild card spot, and they held on to it to get in, and they upset the Preds.
I mean, shouts out to my mother. She's got them winning the cup in her bracket, so...
Wow, I'm sure when she made that, everyone was like, what is she doing? Everyone else had Tampa.
I mean, she's got the second most points behind you in our bracket, so...
Yep, no one's stopping me.
Now, I don't know if that says something about the playoffs this year, or...
That's it. I mean, I think your best bet to win any bracket was just to come in and pick your favorite colors.
That might not have been a bad idea.
Yeah, sure they would have had more points than you.
I mean, Nashville just ultimately went cold late in this series. They needed more out of their big guns, whereas the Stars' big guns were firing throughout the series. I mean, Jamie Benn is just like he'll probably be the last player to go out of the league that doesn't wear a visor.
Yep.
And he just brings a lot to a lineup, a lot to a locker room, and he leads the team by example. He's somebody who's going to hopefully be able to lead Dallas far into the playoffs. They're going to have their hands full with St. Louis, I think.
St. Louis, I think, is going to be a tougher challenge for them.
For sure. Nashville if Nashville would have come out and just thumped the Stars, we might be talking about them as like your Western studs right now.
Yeah.
But instead, they're going to go down to the Stars, and there's not really much else to be said about it. I mean, kudos to the Stars. They played a great series, and now they'll be able to move on and take on the winner of this next series that we're about to talk about.
Also, Nashville went out and picked up Wayne Simmons at the deadline.
I totally forgot about that because
he was nowhere to be seen this whole series.
He didn't show up on the score sheet very much, and that's the thing. And as a Flyers fan myself, as you guys will find out, I was pretty sad to see Simmons go, but when I saw him go to the Preds, I'm like, okay, he's going to a contender. I'm happy about that. Yeah. You know, I'm a bit of a Red Wings fan. The same way I'm happy to see Nyquist end up on the Sharks. I'm happy to see these guys, or I'm happy to see Thomas Tatar have a seriously great season with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep. You want to see your team's best players have success, even if it's not with.
Yeah, even if it's elsewhere. But unfortunately, Wayne Simmons wasn't really that much of a difference maker in this lineup. And that's the thing. That's what I mentioned, is that the Predators' big guns needed to fire bigger than the Stars did, and the Stars just did a bit of a better job on that. I mean, Rene had a couple bad games in there. Not much to be said other than that. The Stars took advantage of a situation that was presented to them, and they'll move on for it.
Yep. So moving on, we have the number 2 seeded Jets.
Yes.
Against the 3 Blues. So, St. Louis Blues win this series 4-2.
Yes.
All I can say is Jordan Binnington.
Yep, I got that in big letters right here.
Who is this guy? Comes out of nowhere and has a hell of a campaign.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, now they're going to be talking about, going into next season, it's going to be his starting position to lose, regardless if they make it out of this round or not. He's had an insanely good season. He looks insanely confident in the net. I think Jordan Binnington, maybe it's a little too early to be saying this, he might be what St. Louis thought Jake Allen was going to be all along.
Ooh. Yeah. Jake Allen, he had a couple good seasons. And
I know it's a little bit of a stark opinion, but Binnington's really making me believe with all these good saves he's making. I mean, Jaden Schwartz was really good too. He was a huge part of this series in taking down the Jets. He scored big goals at big times. Mm-hmm. This was another situation where it's like the Jets needed their big guns to fire, and they just didn't. And now the Jets are going to have some salary cap issues coming up next season because...
Yeah, that's true. They got to sign people like Line A.
And Kyle Connor.
Yep.
That's like 2 of your top 6 forwards. Yeah. Never easy to do that.
Trouba is a free agent as well.
Yeah.
So, it's cap crunch time. Someone's got to go, or these guys are all going to take some pay cuts if they want to stay together.
Yeah.
They're still going to be a competitive team with the players they have.
Yeah.
I'd say that they are currently Canada's best chance at getting a Stanley Cup is going to be this team.
Ooh, that might be... Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I want it to be the Flames because I wanted the Flames to do better, and we'll end up talking about them in a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, you might be right. But that's the thing, right? We talk about their free agents. Was this their last shot with this sort of core that they're structuring around? Is this their last kind of big shot at a cup? All of these were close games, and the Blues were the hottest team coming out. This was a series that you predicted correctly. Unfortunately, I did not.
Yeah.
No, we don't talk about my bracket, by the way, guys. We just don't.
Yeah, so the thing is, the Blues were another team that was, coming in hot.
Yeah.
Now, this team was dead last entering the new year.
Yeah.
They fire their coach, bring in Craig Berube.
Yes.
And he got them firing. He got them going. I mean, there was a time where they were all talking about who is this team going to trade at the deadline? Who's going to get Pietrangelo? Who's this guy going to go to?
I mean, obviously the media around here thought that every single one of them was going to the Leafs, but...
Yeah, you get that. But their general manager even said, he had closed-door meetings with the rest of ownership, and they were discussing what their plan was. They said after we brought in Berube, if we didn't start winning some hockey games, then I'd just consider stuff like that. But they started winning hockey games, and they worked their way into the 3 seed in the Central. After being in last, they were the most winningest team in 2019.
Yep. I mean, huge season for them. And then rolling into the playoffs, that's a huge thing to count into, them being a contender now. I mean, the West is still a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath this entire time with who was going to be coming out on top. I mean, at the start of the playoffs, everybody was like, Tampa's just going to roll through everybody. They'll end up at the finals. But you could have named a lot of different teams in the Western Conference that could have made it there, or at least were contenders. And, I mean, the Blues are definitely one of them, taking down the Jets here. They were all kind of close games. One thing I wanted to talk about is that Patrick Laine just looked a little bit sluggish to me. This was just an off year for him, hopefully.
Yeah, he's very streaky. He'll score in 5 games straight.
Yeah.
And you won't see him for a couple weeks. It's like this guy needs to shoot more and get the puck into
I
the
also
net.
mean physically sluggish. Like, his skating looked bad to me. Like, he just could not keep up with the pace of playoff hockey.
Yeah, he seemed a little slow.
He just, like, he's got to. Obviously, it's in this day and age of the NHL, it's a fast game. Having a guy with an elite shot like him and an elite offensive hockey sense that he has is important, but he can't just be a power play tool. And he can't just be a guy to get the puck once they're in the zone. That's what you do with, like, an Ilya Kovalchuk or, like, somebody who's super old. This
Yeah.
guy's, like, very young. This guy's got a whole career ahead of him. And
Yeah,
if
he's
he's
still
already
okay.
not faster than, like, most of the defensemen in the NHL, it's going to be an uphill battle for him his entire career. And they're about to pay him how much money?
Yeah, he's gonna have a payday coming up. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get paid a lot. The Jets are going to
At a
be silly
minimum.
not to pay him a decent amount.
At a minimum, he's getting Nylander money. You know, he's gonna make $7 million a year.
Yeah,
At least.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long contract too, for sure. That's probably what they'll be looking for. No bridge deal there, but deals will need to be made if they're going to want to keep Connor and Laine. As you mentioned, Truba probably won't stick around.
I would assume not. I think he's gonna go play for somewhere in the States. I don't think he's gonna stay around in Canada. But yeah, I think a lot of these deals coming up with these having to sign guys
Yeah,
are going to take more of these Matthew deals, these 5-year deals instead of these max, 7, 8-year deals. I
Yeah.
think the league's moving to more of this. Guys coming into restricted free agency are going to go with deals that are 5 years instead of
the maximum 8.
yeah.
So Stone might be the last big one that we see like that.
Yeah, and I think that was that's a good deal that Vegas made there.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll talk about it. But first, we've got to talk about the other Canadian hopeful.
The Calgary Flames, 1 seed in the Pacific, face a wild card Colorado Avalanche. The Flames, they were playing some of their best hockey in a long time.
Throughout the season, yeah.
Yeah, everything was clicking. All their lines were scoring.
Yep.
They just seemed like they were going to be that unstoppable team.
Elias Lindholm looked like a steal in the trade for Dougie Hamilton. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, he looked really good. Johnny Gaudreau, obviously, is always a player who's dangerous and he's going to look very good. Breakout season for David Riddick. He was stellar throughout the year.
Yep.
It was, but the big thing about the goaltending that we both talk about is that we thought goaltending was going to be their problem.
Yeah, when they come into this series, everybody said, we know the offense, what it can do,
Yeah.
and we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be how their goaltending is, whether we win or lose this series.
Yes.
And they went with Mike Smith, and their goaltending was stellar.
Yes.
Mike Smith was hands down the best player for the Flames
Yeah,
in this
I
series.
completely agree with that.
It's everything in front of him just collapsed. This offense was gone.
Yeah,
The
they didn't.
defense was shaky.
Yeah, the defense wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. I mean, especially considering they have the likely Norris winner, in my opinion, Mark Giordano, on their side.
Yes. He's a shoe-in.
On the other side of things, credit to Philip Grubauer, because I don't think either of us expected him to be starting the playoffs.
I didn't expect either of these goalies that got the starts in this series to be starting.
Yeah, I thought the Flames were going to go with Riddick. They're going to give the young guy a shot. I mean, throughout the season, Riddick was definitely like both of the goalies in Calgary were not consistent, but Riddick was still more consistent than Mike Smith, in my opinion. Of course, the way that they played them, it seemed like they were playing Mike Smith against weak teams, which is kind of like a death trap in a sense for a 1B goalie.
Yeah.
Is that you're playing against weak teams all the time, and then sometimes that's a game where you drop it against like a weak team. Like Detroit ended up beating Mike Smith a couple times.
Yeah, trap games.
Yeah, it's a no-win situation for you because you lose a game and then they get 19 shots on you or something. Like it just doesn't look good.
No.
But Philip Grubauer comes out and has a very good performance. He's solid throughout the series. When I'm thinking Varlamov, a goalie who's got playoff experience, is going to be between the pipes for the Avs.
Yeah. You figure, he's been around, he's been their guy for a long time. That
Yeah.
he would have been the one to get the start here. But what changed was they had played Grubauer down the stretch of the season.
Yeah.
And he was playing great. So they just rode the hot hand, kept him in net, and it sure paid off.
Yeah, it worked out for them. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, 2 of these games, they dropped them in OT. And as you mentioned, you can't drop 2 overtime games in the same series. It just doesn't work.
No, it's a real tough loss. You're getting tired too. You're playing late, and not to come out with the win.
Yeah.
Have to lose a game and be that tired following your game.
Yeah.
It's a rough loss. So losing 2 like that, the Flames basically played themselves out of it.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate again because this is another one of those series where not a lot of people are going to have the Avalanche winning that series.
No.
I mean,
this was the number 1 team in the Western Conference, so
yeah, for sure.
people wanted to see the Flames do well, and they expected it, and it didn't come true. Nathan MacKinnon, this guy was the player of the series.
What a player!
I personally think he was the player of the first round.
Probably he could have been.
Yeah, they're quick. His whole line's quick. He's just an amazing player.
Yeah, Rantanen as well.
Yes.
I mean, Rantanen's got to be given some credit here. He's not obviously as physically skilled as a player like MacKinnon, but he's a guy who's going to put the puck in the back of the net given the chance to do so, and he did several occasions. One of those overtime winners, I believe, was him. Either way, the Avs are going to come out on top, and the question now is, are they going to be able to keep it up against your San Jose Sharks?
Yeah, so the final series here, the Vegas Golden Knights against your San Jose Sharks.
Oh, enough.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, enough.
Maybe a little biased there. I apologize.
Yeah, you just wait till the Flyers make the playoffs.
So, the big thing here was coming into the series, what type of goaltending are we going to get from Martin Jones? We saw 2 different Martin Jones all season long. We saw the Martin Jones that lets in 5 goals a game,
yes,
and all of them on weak shots. And then we see Martin Jones win 7 games in a row and just be a stellar goalie.
Yeah.
So the question was, what Martin Jones are we going to get? And game 1, he looked okay. And people thought, okay, we might be all right. Because if he played mediocre hockey, the Sharks would be fine. If we had a mediocre goaltending, that's all they needed from him.
Yeah.
And then game 2 comes. Game 2, 3, and 4. Martin Jones falls apart.
Yep.
He's letting in goals early. Now, the defense didn't help him.
No,
But-
of course. We'll get to that.
So game, I believe it was 3, they scored like 14 seconds into the game.
Yep, something like that.
And they continued to do that at the start of each period. Vegas just jumped on the Sharks.
Yeah.
And it wasn't looking good. So in this series, the Sharks went down 3-1, and everyone basically read them off. Because the Stone line for Vegas.
Are they the best second line in the NHL?
Oh, they have
I mean, they're
to
a
be.
first line on like half the teams out there.
Yeah, this team is unbelievable.
That's Stastny between Pacioretty and Stone, by the way. So Stone signing that big deal is obviously already paying off for the Vegas Golden Knights, and it'll pay off for years to come.
Yeah, until the last few years of his deal, of course.
Yeah.
Most deals work like that. You're paying for him to do things now, and you'll be paying him for what he has done come the end of his deal.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of bantering going on during this series too between Evander Kane and Ryan Reeves.
Yeah.
Some fights.
Yeah, it's a fiery rivalry, and that's what I mentioned about this series before, is that, this is already kind of a big rivalry. For a brand new team to come out 2 seasons in and already have like a bloodbath style rivalry.
Yeah.
Like, this is already giving me that, like, late 90s Red Wings Avs, like,
Yeah.
vibe. Like, these guys don't like each other.
Yeah, I always thought the rivalry, the biggest one for the Sharks was between them and the Kings, but this one's quickly becoming just as vicious.
If not more, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, yeah,
absolutely.
these guys, the way that they're playing each other all the time, these two are the 2 heavy hitters out on that West Coast, so it's like, this series was good for everybody. It was good for both teams, and it's great for hockey because there's so many storylines that are going to come out of this.
Now, there was a suspension during the series as well.
Yes.
Joe Thornton got suspended for a hit on Thomas Nosek.
Yes.
It was a suspendable hit.
It was cut and dry.
Yeah, it looked like Joe tried to move and avoid the hit, but while trying to do so, it's like he dropped his shoulder right into his head.
He moved enough that when talking to the media, he'd be like, "I tried to move," and he'd be like, "Yeah, sure you did."
Yeah.
But it's one of those like accidentally on purpose kind of collision hits. He got suspended for a game. Unfortunately, or fortunately for the Sharks, rather, it doesn't come back to bite them because Joe is a huge part of that team. As you mentioned all the time, he's a locker room guy. He's somebody who's going to give them an emotional boost all the time. Might not be the quickest player out there anymore, but he gets things done when he's on the ice, and he gets things done when he's on the bench, gets things done in the room. He's a huge part of that team. And so that suspension was cut and dry 1 game. Not a lot to be said there. If we're going to talk about calls, though.
First, I do want to get to following Game 4.
Okay.
So this is when the series became 3-1 for the Golden
Yes.
Knights. Erik Karlsson was like minus 14 or 19 or something.
It was bad.
He had a bigger minus than Martin Jones had let goals in, due to the fact that they had pulled Martin Jones twice in this series.
Yeah.
Erik Karlsson just looked like a defensive liability. He's trying to skate in as a forward, and he's turning over the puck.
Yep.
And it didn't look good until the last few games there. So this game, the Sharks end up winning Game 6 in a double overtime, shorthanded goal by Tomas Hertl.
And that was a weak one for Fleury to let in. That's a routine save for him.
He was out of position. Hertl noticed it, and he took the shot. Mm-hmm. This is the first time in NHL history a player has scored a shorthanded goal in double overtime or later.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool to see.
Nice. History made.
Yes. Sharks also made history in this Game 7. It didn't look good for the Sharks early. They gave up a goal early in the first, and then in the second there was a goal I personally believe was a missed call. It was a high stick. He tipped it in. It looked like his stick was over the net, but from the one camera angle, it was
just
hard
too
to
hard
tell.
to tell, yeah.
Yeah, so they had to go with the call on the ice, and it stands. They got up 3-0.
Yeah.
The Vegas Golden Knights in this Game 7. And
You were almost in tears.
I was in tears. I thought it was over.
It wasn't almost.
What's the chance a team comes back from something like this?
Yeah,
right?
Against the Golden Knights of all teams, right? Because the Golden Knights are not an easy opponent. I mean, they're still one of the best teams in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, which is ridiculous for an expansion team.
Yes.
But that's besides the point.
Besides the point.
They're playing good hockey. So, you're never out of a game
No.
because of one thing that can happen. A 5-minute major for a cross-check.
Yes.
So this call was, a lot of people were upset because it was a bad call.
I think so.
If you look at the video, he did cross-check him. It was a cross-check.
Yes.
And it pushed him off balance.
Yep.
It was not to his face. And then he basically just got pushed over by Stastny and lands directly on his head.
Yep.
Now he was down. He was bleeding profusely.
Yes.
It was not a pretty sight. The refs had to call something, and since it was an injury and it was a cross-check, they just went thinking it was all combined together and called the 5-minute major for cross-check.
Yep.
This gives the Sharks 5 minutes of uninterrupted power play, no matter how many goals they score.
Yes.
The Sharks do something that's never been done, and they score 4 goals in 4 minutes
Yes.
to take a lead in this game.
It was miraculous. It was.
Oh yeah, the crowd was going nuts.
Absolutely.
The crowd was losing it.
Of course.
Absolutely. You think you're done. Like 10 minutes left in the game, we're down 3-0, and 4 minutes later you're winning this game.
Yeah.
Props to Kevin LeBanc, who had an assist on the first 3 goals of this power play.
Power play specialist.
And scored the 4th goal,
Yep.
the go-ahead goal.
Of course.
And with 47 seconds left, Vegas makes this choice. Now, what surprised me was they had their 6 men on the ice, all forwards,
Yes.
which is surprising. I guess they basically said, get our shooters out there, because if they get by us and we get out of the zone, it's done anyways.
Yeah.
We don't need defense. So they had 6 forwards out there.
Marchessault did it.
Okay.
Pacioretty made the pass, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Jonathan Marchessault hit a great. It was a great shot.
Oh, it was
of
an amazing
course.
shot.
Marchessault is he's a great player, I think, for them. But
Yeah. So this game goes to overtime, and with 1 minute and 41 seconds left in overtime, Barclay Goodrow gets the game winner.
He hadn't been playing very much. He hadn't had a lot of ice time leading up to this, which is kind of ended up playing into his favor because of the way he kind of blew past that defenseman and had all that extra speed.
That's it. He hadn't played since the third period.
Yeah.
So he has been sitting the whole overtime. So they threw him out there because everyone's getting tired. So this guy's got fresh legs coming in.
Yeah.
And he just kind of skates by the defenseman, and Erik Karlsson gives him his perfect pass.
Yep.
And he wraps this puck right around Fleury. for the game winner.
Huge. It was a huge Game 7. It's one of those Game 7s that we're going to be talking about for a long time. It's
one of the greatest comebacks ever.
Yep, definitely.
Although it was on a controversial call.
That's the thing, right? We have to talk about the controversial call most of all, because that's where people seem to have their gripes with this. I mean, here's the thing. You can't get mad at the Sharks because the Sharks didn't get to make that call. The Sharks aren't the ones who, it's not their fault that Pavelski fell like that. Obviously,
Yeah, no.
we want Joe Pavelski to be okay.
Yeah.
That's a main thing here.
Yeah, we hope he's okay.
Ultimately, that's on the referees needing to have a better, I think, sight on the original call. Not to mention that cross-check that Eakin gave him. More than 50% of draws that are lost in the NHL, the losing player gives that little push. They usually do that.
Yeah.
It's just part of the play. Playoff hockey, if we're going to talk about it, it gets called differently than regular season hockey for one reason or another, convention, tradition, whatever you want to call it. But for them to call the 5-minute penalty on Cody Eakin, who is the best penalty killer on that team.
Yeah. So, the Sharks just took advantage of this.
Yeah, obviously. And it's huge.
You have to, yeah. So it's not on them. They didn't do anything wrong.
No, and then obviously the Golden Knights need to have a better penalty kill than that, despite it being a 5-minute kind of like quote-unquote unkillable penalty. Because if there was a way for that to be reduced during those goals, then this game still probably ends differently.
Yes.
But ultimately, I mean, it was good for them to be able to come back and send it to overtime. It's a game for the ages. It's one that's always going to be remembered as one of the greatest Game 7s, at least Western Conference playoff history, probably.
Oh, absolutely.
It was huge. It was just
instant classic.
It was monumental. I mean, my player to watch that entire series, and somebody who I think is like the contract they got him on is incredible for his value, is Thomas Hertl.
Oh yeah, when they first signed that deal, a lot of people were like, "Really, that much for him?"
Yeah.
And he puts up 70 points this year, puts in 30 goals. I mean, now he's on a steal of a contract.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it now.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course. I mean,
he had an amazing series. I think he was the player for the Sharks. Yep. One thing I want to ask you about, though, when it comes to that penalty.
Yes.
Do you think this call should be reviewable? Like, do you think they should be able to go up into a booth or send it to somebody to make the call, or like be able to watch it? Because they had to make this call without seeing.
Well, that's
what
the thing,
happened.
and that's what Marchessault said in his interview. And I actually like that Marchessault got as pissed as he did and was as wordy as he did. Critical of the NHL with that, because players tend to be told to keep it in the room or keep their emotions down. But obviously, in that situation, he's going to be hot and he's biased in the situation.
Oh, absolutely, it ended your season.
Yeah, and I mean, in his eyes, it's like they didn't even really see the call. They called it after the fact. And a lot of calls in the NHL are like that now. It's like I literally saw it today in the game that we were watching, where there was a slash on there's a slash basically, and no ref called it on the play until the player whose stick got slashed and broken is waving his arms up in the air like, "Oh, I don't have a stick anymore." It's like there's got to be a way that we can figure this out where the refs aren't making calls after the fact. Pavelski's on the ice bleeding out of his head.
Yeah.
It looks pretty bad.
It looks brutal.
But then you watch the replay and you're like, okay, it's a lot more about how he fell than it was about how he was pushed.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just his footing was awkward and he just tripped up.
It happens. I mean, it's a dangerous game out there. Not to mention he's got all that extra gear on his helmet from taking a puck off the face in Game 1.
Yeah.
Should it be reviewable? I don't know if it should be reviewable. I think it should be challengeable. Yeah. I think the coaches should be able to challenge it, send it to the room in Toronto, and have Toronto decide what
the actual call should be.
Maybe not that's even a better thing, because another story that we'll end up talking about in another episode.
Why don't we just have robotic refs, and nothing will ever be wrong?
Okay, that can't be a thing.
Yeah, I'm
though.
joking.
Human error is
a huge
part of the
sports.
game. It's the refs are just like any player in the fact that they're an element of the game.
Yes.
Whether you like the call or not, the refs had an impact on the outcome of this game. It's unfortunate. It happened. We all have to move on.
One thing I don't agree with is these refs are now done for the postseason. They won't be reffing in the second round here.
I don't think they're done for the postseason. I think they're benched for the second round. And I think that's more of just a PR move by the NHL to kind of try to calm people down, to be like, okay, look, these guys made the wrong call. Now they're not going to see work in the second round of the playoffs. They can sit at home and wait. But
no, see, I think that's absolutely wrong. They should not have done this.
Yeah.
Put anybody out there trying to make that call. They had to make a call. They had to do their job. Sorry, it was wrong. Everybody would have made that call wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, but and that's the thing, is that's where review would help.
Yeah.
Or should the refs be able to go back and look at review themselves and then decide if they got it right? If they think they didn't see it well enough, that they should be able to go look at it. There's a lot of different ways that this can go. There's probably a lot of right answers and a lot of wrong answers, but it's not anything that I could probably, tell you. My opinion of it is that in that situation, Gerard Gallant should be able to throw his red challenge flag or whatever and just say, "Look, I don't think it was as bad as you guys are saying it is. Let's look at the video and let's see if it was. And if he's wrong, take his time out, whatever. If he's wrong, add time to the penalty. I don't even care."
Yeah. Well, all we know is sports continue to change, so
Yeah.
things may change in the future. Anyways, the Sharks come through.
Yeah,
they win the series
4-3.
4-3.
Yeah, it was definitely a series for the ages. It's one that, I'm going to remember for a long time. I'm not necessarily a Vegas fan, but I'm a big Marc-Andre Fleury fan, so it sucks for me to see him go out like that. But of course, I'm part of the do it for Jumbo bandwagon because Joe Thornton is the definitive player in the NHL who deserves a cup.
Oh, absolutely.
Still who's still out there. He's still fighting.
An all-star many times. He's a great guy. He's one of the nicest guys in the league.
Yeah,
and he needs to win.
I want to see it happen now. I mean, now think about it. With Tampa out of the way, with Calgary out of the way, like if they can run through the Avs here in a convincing fashion and really get their momentum going, really get their cylinders firing, I mean, I think they stand a good chance at it. I mean,
I have to put them as the favorites to win. Not being biased.
I think Vegas odds probably have it like that now too, though. I think they probably do have the best odds.
I believe they are second. I want to say the Blues have better odds.
Really?
Yes.
The Blues versus the Sharks would be an insane third-round matchup if it does end up happening. But that's a little bit ahead of us right now. So, I mean, do you have any final comments for the playoff round, like in general, that you want to talk about here?
There's one thing. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but let's talk about our brackets.
Oh, God, here we go.
So, everyone, they didn't like my picks, and I said, hey, I got some good picks, I think, here. I ended up getting 6 of 8 right in the first round.
You had a stellar bracket.
I mean, the 2 I got wrong, I had both top teams in each conference winning. So I had Tampa moving on, and I also had the Flames moving on. Every other series I got correct.
So did the rest of North America, though, so you can't really blame them. You can't blame yourself for that.
Yep. So currently on the NHL, the big one, the big bracket thing, I'm like 16th in the world or something.
That's really good.
Yeah. So hopefully my teams keep winning here. I unfortunately have Tampa in the final, so I won't get points for that.
That's going to be a hard one to overcome because at least one of those other 16 guys is going to not have them in the finals.
Yeah.
But it's it's one of those things. I mean,
it's more than 16 people.
My bracket was a nightmare. It was just I got like one team right in the whole, maybe 2, maybe I get 2.
Oh, that was big. That was my favorite laugh of the first round was your bracket.
Yeah. Oh, it was bad. It was really bad. I think I had Boston. I think
you had the Bruins.
I think that's all I got.
Yep.
That's the only team I got right.
And that was a game 7. You could have almost got none of them right.
That would have been monumental.
That would have been.
If I got 0 right, you might not be hearing my voice right now.
I would have printed it out and framed it and gave it to you as a
I would have
gift.
still never heard the end of it. I probably still won't hear the end of it. I mean, I got the second chance bracket to come back to now, so hopefully that'll be something that I can redeem myself on.
Well, it can't possibly be any worse.
That's true. That is factually true. I'm sure I will get 1 or 2 right into the next round.
It's too funny.
We'll be talking about the second round, probably giving you the next episode of Puck Buddies. The next time we have the end of a round, I guess that'll be.
Yeah, we'll just do the round recaps.
Yeah, that's basically it.
So to conclude the first round, I want your 3 stars of the first round.
Okay.
I think we should do this. I want a goalie, a defenseman, and a forward.
Okay, this is good, and you even put me on the spot for this, and I really got to think about it, which is nice. Goalie, Jordan Binnington.
Yeah,
Binnington. It's got to be Binnington.
That's a good pick. I mean, he's been running since he has started.
Oh, but Robin
playing,
Leonard was so good too.
He was.
Jordan Binnington.
Well, since Binnington started playing, he's been challenging for Rookie of the Year, so he's one of the finalists. He may get it, but I think it will go to Pettersson.
Probably will go to Pettersson,
but. Still an amazing rookie campaign.
Yeah, I agree. And moving into the playoffs, now he's not phased by playoff hockey. It doesn't seem like he looks. This might hurt you a little bit. I think he looks more steady in net than Martin Jones does.
I think every goalie left looks more steady than Martin Jones does.
Okay, well I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
As far as my defenseman goes, I almost want to say Jacob Slavin, from the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, he's just been so impressive to me, but I probably got to go with somebody a little more, big named with that. So I probably you'd hurt me if I said Erik Karlsson, so I won't.
That's not a bad pick. He had a lot of points. He led the Sharks in points.
But
Also,
perhaps
in
Erik
minus,
Karlsson is a bad defenseman.
He's a bad defenseman.
There's a chance he might be a bad defenseman. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna stick with my pick there. I'm gonna say Jacob Slavin. I think he is, one of those guys coming out of nowhere and just having a great first round. To prevail over the Caps is no easy task. Obviously, with the offensive abilities that they have, and then for him to be able to jump into the play the way he did and really set things up and start things out as a puck moving defenseman for the Carolina Hurricanes, I think he was a good player. For my forward, it's tough to say. I probably would say Jaden Schwartz.
Jaden Schwartz, eh?
For me, it'd be like Jaden Schwartz with Jordan Eberle as an honorable mention.
Okay.
Because Jaden Schwartz did more overall than Eberle did, but he also had more games to do it. So It's like Eberle was a big reason why the Islanders were able to overcome the Pens, but obviously that was a big team effort. Jaden Schwartz had some very timely goals.
The one he smacked out of the air was
in
beautiful.
Overtime too, right? Like
yeah.
Everybody thought he was going to be a stud player coming out of juniors, and it did take him a couple of years to really find his feet, but it seems like he has now, and that's that's looking good for him now. So, obviously now I got to flip it on you. Who do you got for your top three?
I got to do this too?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
You don't have to ask the question and not answer it.
Well, maybe I should have thought. So I'll start with my goalie.
Yeah.
I'm picking a losing goalie.
Okay.
I'm going Mike Smith.
Yeah.
This was a guy coming into the playoffs. They basically said, if he can be good, his team can win. And he was the best player on his team.
Oh, yeah.
And he gave them every chance to win. And they didn't do it. This forward group didn't want to score like they did in the regular season. So I got to give it to Mike Smith.
Okay, that's a fair pick. It really, taking a losing goalie there is not in the first round of these playoffs, it's not a bad thing. It's not. No, of course. There's a lot of goalies out there that could have done a lot, worse, I guess. Mike Smith played really well. Obviously another guy on the losing end of things who played really well was Freddie Anderson. So
yes,
yeah. But Mike Smith's a good pick. So who you got for your defenseman?
For my defenseman, that's a tough pick. There was some good defense.
You can be a homer here if you really want to. Just don't pick Karlsson.
Okay, I'll be a homer. I'll go with Brendan Dillon.
Okay.
Now this guy has been the best defenseman.
Yes.
All year for the Sharks.
We both mentioned that throughout the entire first round.
Yeah, and with Martin Jones being as shaky as he has been,
yeah,
he really needed some defensemen in front of him, and he played great the whole series.
Absolutely.
Honorable mention here too for Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Every game he was out, the Sharks lost. Every game he was in, the Sharks won.
Yeah, there's something to be said.
There's something to be said there.
Yeah, of course.
So that's my pick for my defenseman. My forward, I got to go with Nathan MacKinnon.
Oh, yeah.
This guy was just a superstar. So he ran the whole series. He is the reason they won. He got, I want to say both overtime goals. I know he had one.
He had one of two, and he assisted on the other.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so him and his whole line have been great. But he, by far, is one of the best players in this league. I think he might be a top 5, maybe top 3 player in the NHL.
I think he's a top 2.
Yeah.
I think, I've talked to you about this. Connor McDavid is probably a better player than him north-south, but McKinnon can almost match that speed and make you fall over.
That's it. He's a heavy body, and he'll skate right through you.
And he will, yeah. That's the thing. He bangs people up in the corners. I haven't really seen McDavid throw giant hits in his career, but I know McKinnon can really, he can really throw him. So I love Nathan McKinnon. I think he's going to, obviously this round is going to be a little bit hard for you to love him, but of course. Those are 3 good picks. But anyways, guys, that's probably going to do it for the first inaugural episode of Puck Buddies.
We hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, we'll hope to see you guys back for the next one at the end of this next round of playoffs.
Yep, so we will be back for round 2. And until then, thanks for tuning in. This was the Puck Buddies Podcast.